Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the deep dive pop culture podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you so much for listening. It's finally here. It's the summer movie season. We're talking about a summer movie. And that summer movie is one that we have been really excited about and also kind of worried about for a while. And that, of course, is James Gunn's Superman, written, directed, produced by him. And boy, this needed to be a success on all fronts. And as we record this is the week after it came out. Had a really good opening weekend, so presumably it will continue to have a good weekend and this coming week. And but not only was it financially successful, I think all of us here at Nerdist kind of agree that it was more or less uh, artistically successful and narratively successful, and we're going to talk about that this week. Joining me are not one but two people who have written about and spoken extensively about this Superman topic in weeks and months past. First up, we have my go-to DC guy. He's been on the show just a couple weeks ago. We talked about Superman. Welcome back to the show, Eric Diaz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And also we have my colleagues. How long have we been working? Actually, both of you guys, we've been working together a really long time, but he has just made a video about the Superman phenomenon, and you can watch that now on our YouTube. It's Dan Casey. Hey, man.
Get me pictures of Superman. Wait, sorry, wrong universe.
Wrong universe.
The video about the Superman phenomenon makes it sound like I did a hit piece on him. I work at the Daily Planet's rival rag.
I would actually love to see Perry White and J. Jonah Jameson in a room. What would they?
I know.
What would they talk about?
I think there would be a begrudging respect. I think they would dislike each other, but there would be that grudging sort of old salt newsman's respect between the two. But
they probably did it in one of the old Spider-Man Superman crossovers. I'm sure they could not have resisted that. I don't remember, but
the big thing I remember from the Spider-Man Superman crossover is when Spider-Man punches Superman and immediately breaks both his hands, and all he says is, "Oh boy." One of my favorite panels.
Boy.
So, Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, the battle of the century.
Wow.
Boy.
That I can't abide crossovers. I think they're very silly, and I know you guys like them, but I think they're
bring back DC versus Marvel.
Yeah.
I remember having those trading cards when I was a kid, and I had the Superman and the Hulk card. I believe it was Superman v Hulk, and Lobo and Wolverine or something like that. There was a couple other ones, but
I mean, DC versus Marvel was really cheesy because it was the fans got to vote.
Yeah.
And it was just about who was more popular. There's no universe where Wolverine should beat Lobo. Because
Except
Lobo is immortal and can replicate. But yeah, some of them are good. I stand that X-Men Teen Titans is forever one of the best.
That's a great one. Archie meets the Punisher, another surprisingly good one.
Yeah. Didn't they have a recent Elmer Fudd and Batman or something like that?
Yes.
I know that was both DC, but
yeah, they were doing a bunch of sort of DC Looney Tunes crossovers, and you know what? Good. I think Elmer Fudd of all those characters makes sense in Gotham.
Yeah.
I feel like there's characters in Gotham already that kind of have a Fuddian physiognomy, so it doesn't surprise me.
He basically could just be the ventriloquist dummy.
Yes.
Scarface. That would actually be really funny. But we're not here to talk about Gotham. We're in fact talking about Metropolis. And yeah, we wanted to kind of get into some of the nitty gritty, but both about the movie, how much we enjoyed it, but then also what is this set up going forward for the DCU? What are some of our favorite kind of pulls and Easter eggs? Obviously, we know that James Gunn is a huge comic book fan and DC kind of dork, which is really helpful for us. So yeah, just to before we really dive into some of the meat and potatoes of it, I wanted to get your guys' reaction. Yeah, Dan, why don't we start with you? What was your kind of initial takeaway from Superman when we saw it? A couple weeks ago now?
First of all, my reaction was, thank God. I was so worried going into this movie because The trailers didn't really do it for me. I always try to approach these things with a place of cautious optimism because I love these characters. I don't want to see a bad story. I want to find something to enjoy, especially because, I have to and get to talk about this for a living. But I really liked this movie. I thought it was very good. I thought the whole cast was just perfectly assembled. I loved all of the details and texture and world building that James Gunn brought to it. Everything from the Daily Planet to the Justice Gang to the opening crawl inspired by Star Wars. Great pull from Jermaine Lucier in his interview with James Gunn over at IO9. And it just really makes the universe feel like it is something that already is existing instead of something that they have to build from the ground up. And we have to kind of sludge through all of this initial table setting.
Yeah, I love that too. And I just listened to an interview with James Gunn and on Seth Meyers, which is very fun and everything, but where he talks about like when he was a kid, when we were kids, you pick up a issue of some comic book. It's never the first. I mean, very rarely the first issue. It's always like issue 208 or whatever. So you just kind of dive in. So like needing to make it an origin story every time is actually kind of a disservice to the comic booky nature of it. And I also just really like the idea of he's been around. Like this is not a new thing. It's just a new adventure kind of thing.
There's still plenty of exposition, like
tons. Yeah.
Apart from that intro crawl, like during the opening scene, spoiler alert, when he's at the Fortress of Solitude, the Superman robots are basically giving you his quick life story. Oh yeah, he was sent here as a baby. Here are his parents. He loves watching this message. Here's the score, and it's effective. It was simple, effective, and then you just get to move on.
Yeah, totally agree. Eric, what were your, this is something you and I have been talking about for almost a year probably, but like, what was your takeaway when you saw it finally?
I mean, again, relief. Like I was happy. I feel like did almost everything right. I'm a huge Superman fan, so we've been through it the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one was really doing it the way they should have been doing it. And yeah, I didn't have as much concerns just because James Gunn hasn't made anything that I don't like yet. I mean, going back to Slither. So I'm like, and everything he said in the press so far was like pretty much right. Like he was like, yeah, I'm not trying to make him Star-Lord. I'm not going to do that. I know who this character is. So I felt we were in good hands, but I didn't think he would deliver as hard as he did. And I was so relieved. I mean, because it's like, he really went into this movie like, what if this is the last Superman movie? Let's tick the boxes. Like, okay, Krypto, check. He fights a kaiju, check. He fights a robot dude, like all of these things. He saves a lot of people. He saves a squirrel, like he made sure that it had almost everything that you could possibly want in case this was the last time, because it could have been. This could have gone, sideways, even if it was good. Like people might not have been into it. So I was just really, really happy. I mean, the casting is perfect. I think another smart thing it did is like it had all of these things that kids will enjoy, which is really important because I mean, obviously there's adult themes in here. Like there's a 10-minute interview scene that will probably bore a 5-year-old. However, he makes sure to give the 5-year-olds what they want. You know what I mean? Like, let's have Superman laser a bunch of people, like, and it was very, very smart because a lot of the movies we grew up with were like that. There was adult stuff that we didn't get until we were older, but there was things to engage us as kids. And he understood that. He understood the assignment, and like, thank God,
Hey, my son won't shut up about Cronkite. I think he'll really enjoy the interview sequence. Something you mentioned, Eric, that I just wanted to flag because I've seen it flying around and it just makes me laugh. The squirrel. Have you guys seen the theory that people are saying the squirrel that Superman saves is going to wind up being Chip, the squirrel Green Lantern Corps member?
Well, I remember when there was like a photo on set when they were filming and the squirrel was there and people were like, oh, it's Chip. I'm like, it's not. Like, Chip's going to be CGI, number one. If let's say he's in this, it's not going to be an actual squirrel, people. Like,
they
it's not
cast a squirrel.
Like, it's not.
They're introducing him now, so it's going to hit that much harder when Guy Gardner has to kill him when they get to Blackest Night.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that was something else. Like, it's interesting, like getting, because now it's a week after the movies come out and all the reviews have come out, but then also a lot of kind of just takes have come across, and a lot of the takes have been like it's overstuffed or it's there's kind of too much going on. And I kind of agree with you, Eric. Like he put all that stuff in just kind of to do it, just to be like, okay, all of this stuff is now in. Like
Mhm.
it's silver agey stuff. It's also like a bunch of 80s stuff, which we had talked about before. A lot of John Byrne in there. And just he always cites Superman Man for All Seasons and All Star Superman, which are both incredible little miniseries. And there's a lot of that kind of heart of Superman in there, and I appreciate that a lot. I've also seen a lot of people say that like it's a great Superman in a pretty good movie, and I don't disagree with that. I was less. I It was tough because like now when I think of it, I was like, I love this movie. But at the time, Dan can attest to this because we talked about it right afterwards. But I was kind of like, yeah, it was good. Like I was sort of just like more relieved than excited about it. And I think that was just a lot of like fatigue. But the more I think about it, the more I really like it. But I do really think David Cornsweet is the real deal. Like I think this guy, and the more I
Yeah.
watch him on press tours, I think this guy is gonna, if we're gonna have a Superman for the long term, which I hope we do, that I really like this guy about it. What did you guys think of him and also just the cast in general?
Yeah, I think David Cornsweet, just phenomenal portrayal of Superman. I think that he, to me, really embodies the duality of the character in a way. He made them feel distinct. He made them feel believable. He felt very believable as Clark Kent. I love sort of like he feels physically out of place. He's just this big kind of imposing guy. But he played that sort of like aw shucks small town charm very
Mhm.
well too, but not in a way that felt kind of like cloying or put on. And I also loved, he's 3 years into his journey as Superman, and I like that level of almost naivete or just a lack of understanding for how his actions in a place like Jarhanpur might have a ripple effect, or sort of the knock-on effect of what he does and how that could affect the wider scope of the global geopolitical situation. But I think that David Cornsweet, especially hearing him in interviews, I think he really understands this version of the character, and I
Mhm.
really enjoyed his portrayal.
Yeah, totally. Eric, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I thought he was fantastic. I mean, obviously he looks like Superman. It's like it's that thing, but he just has it's again the aw shucks thing. Without being cheesy, without it's not campy. It's just like he's just he's that guy from Smallville. Like I love that he never cusses really unless he's mad. Like you know what I mean? Like he's like I think he endeared himself to me instantly when he said "what the hey" to
Yeah, to
Krypto
Krypto,
instead
I
he
love that.
he like what the hey. I'm like that is such a Superman thing. Like he's not gonna just like casually like drop f bombs or anything like that. Like
No.
he's that wholesome guy, and I love it. And it comes off as sincere. Like like he really is like I'm here just to help people, and I
Mhm.
don't care. And that's the most important thing. Especially I mean I hate to say it, especially coming after the Cavill Superman, which is like uh, didn't really seem to care about the collateral damage.
No, and like I'm really tired. I think the video game Injustice really has done a
Yeah,
number on Superman in the zeitgeist for a lot of people, because I do think that like the fact that he's always, the basic, and especially in a world with Homelander on The Boys
yeah.
and what's his face on Invincible, like um the like we've done the version of Superman who has gone over the edge into kind of like evil supervillaindom. And yes, it would be
James Gunn
very,
did it.
yeah, right. He did it with Brightburn. Like it's we've done it. I'm kind of over that idea. And I just was getting really tired of the like, oh, I have to save these people. I'm so much better
Oh,
than this.
yeah.
Like it drove me nuts. And so I do love the fact that this is a movie where he is, and Gunn has said this up and down the entire press tour, but like he's a kind person trying to do right by people. And like he's sort of, if we get into moral philosophy, like the absolute good is saving people's lives. And it does, and like political stuff is very in the background. And so, of course, because that is a very pure, or I guess naive sensibility, a lot of more cynical people would be like, no, he's got to have an ulterior motive. He wants to take us over, like all this stuff. When his actions and kind of just general demeanor are just like, no, people were going to die. Like that, there is no greater like call than that. And that is such a key tenet of Superman. Like not just that he won't kill, it's that it's the saving of lives that is more important than the defeating of the villain or whatever.
Right.
Um, yeah.
he's not a cop, he's a firefighter. I saw someone
Yeah.
say that online. They're like, that's what he is. Batman is kind of a cop, but
Yeah, yeah,
Superman
yeah.
is, I'm here to save people. And if saving people means I have to beat up a robot or whatever the hell, then I'll do that. But his thing is, to help. And yeah, it's an antidote. We've had 10 years of like between Injustice and all of those things you mentioned, The Boys, it's like we're kind of conditioned to believe that like if someone would to have that kind of power, they would be selfish assholes. Like we can't conceive anymore that someone would just do good. And culturally, we need that. I mean, I feel this movie's had like a cultural impact already in the sense of, the kindness is punk rock thing. Like it really, like we needed to hear it. We needed to see it, and it came at the right time, you
Yeah, I
know?
think under the wrong sort of circumstances, that message could come across as like cloying or like dis like not genuine. But I think right now, just it feels like we're in, and I talk about this in the video we just put out. It feels like we're in this climate of just cultural cruelty or casual cruelty where it feels like people are delighting in the suffering of others in a way that feels genuinely dispiriting and off-putting. So to have a character like Superman who's been this emblem of, you know, good hope, doing the right thing for so long, to have it on this grand scale and to see it done so well and like communicate this message so crystal clearly, I think it's something that felt like a breath of fresh air because it doesn't feel cynical. There's cynical characters around
Yes.
Superman, but he's
Mhm.
still able to break through that noise in a way that feels honest, in a way that really resonated with me.
I think a lot of the my initial kind of hesitancy to like really just embrace the movie and say yes I love it is sort of that I wasn't surprised by anything, and by that I mean like we sort of figured out um what the kind of tone and the tenor of the movie was going to be, not least because there's been a trillion trailers and TV spots, but um the sort of idea that we kind of figured, oh, the world is going to be cynical and Superman's going to be like the antidote to that, and it just seemed like that was where Gunn was going, and there's nothing wrong with like kind of not pulling the rug out or something like that. Like there were a couple like, oh, that was fun, kind of twists. Like we kind of figured out what Ultraman was going to be, but it was a little different maybe. And I really liked how much Jimmy Olsen's in it, how much his relationship with Eve Teschmacher is just very funny. How for some reason he's just not into her, this very like attractive woman who is clearly way out of his league, and he's just like, oh come on, I don't really want to. And then I just love that stuff. And then of course the Justice Gang being bankrolled by Maxwell Lord, the third, the the least evil of the three most evil like rich guys in all of the DC universe.
He wasn't
Uh,
originally evil. I'm not on board that. That's a tangent. I'm not on board on Maxwell Lord being evil.
all right, well that's fair. I mean, he
No.
did bankroll the JLI in the
Yeah, he
comics, so
bankrolled the JLI, and then like in the 2000s in that gritty era, they were like, he was secretly evil all along. I'm like, but he had thought balloons. Anyway.
that's true. Anybody with
we
thought
can
balloons
we can
is a
see what's
dickhead.
going on in his head.
Yeah, he was definitely not.
I think they're just talking about the intrinsic evil of hoarding that much wealth.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Which is
But to
not
be
to say that.
fair,
Yeah,
is
please.
it worth it to spend that much money so you can have Batman punch Guy Gardner in the face?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth it.
I think some would say yes.
Yeah. I do really love that it's a huge, they have the Hall of Justice, which is incredible. I love the Hall of Justice. That's such a super
Oh, yeah.
frenzy type silly thing. I love how big that building is for three people. Like I know they're
Yeah.
building a team, but they literally have three people right now, and they all just sit in the like within 10 feet of each other. It really made me laugh. But yeah, I really liked all three of the Justice Gang members. Four, with Metamorpho. I think Metamorpho probably is the one that didn't get the most, or like got the least amount of like attention, because he doesn't really even show up until about halfway through the movie.
For
But
sure.
but yeah, what did y'all think of like the other like DC big time characters? We'll get to the Daily Planet people, but like the heroes and some of the other villains and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it was fantastic. I mean, the villains, I thought I think the engineer definitely felt underbaked or
Totally.
underutilized. I think maybe they had grander plans once upon a time when they were going to do the Authority, but in terms of other characters, I loved the Justice Gang so much. I thought that they really brought those characters to life in very cool ways. Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, far and away the
Totally.
standout for me. I'm a
100%.
big fan of the like early 2000s JSA comics. So just seeing
Hmm.
him and then seeing the mural in the Hall of Justice with all of these delicious Easter eggs of characters that I hope we get to see on screen at some point, that was just really, really cool for me. And I think his fight scene definitely got the biggest pop in
Oh
our
yeah.
screening of the movie. So I think he was great.
Yeah, that his fight scene with Lois Lane in the bubble, the T sphere was outstanding, and that was I heard someone say, "Well, that's the gun the gun action scene," like because he always has an action scene kind of like that, or at least he has in the last few movies, um, where there's somebody is stationary and just stuff is happening all
Yeah,
around.
he loves the camera pan, but it
Yeah,
works. It
it
works,
really
man.
Hmm.
works, and it just shows like how good Mr. Terrific is. Like at first, he just seems like he's just sitting in a chair shooting stuff out, but he's like legitimately a great character.
What's his line
Um,
like? Of course I can. I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's so
he was
great.
great.
Like he was just a standout, and I definitely think he'll get some kind of spinoff.
Totally.
I foresee the Terrifics announcement. It probably will be the team. I just feel like you've set up half of it already, and it
Mhm.
gives him someone to talk. It gives him other characters to interact with. And I can't wait to see whatever they do with him next. Hawk Girl, fine. Like again, they didn't give her a lot to do besides screech and kill people, presumably. Um, everybody, and of course Guy Gardner. I mean, like Nathan Fillion stepped out of a 1987 JLI comic. I don't know. Like he has the Kevin Maguire faces naturally.
He really
Like he
does.
just does make the face, and it's crazy. Like it's nuts how perfect he was.
Yeah.
And that's the Green Lantern that they chose. I love that Gunn went there, because I mean, obviously the natural inclination, had Warner Brothers been making this movie, had it not been a DC Studios film, it would have been Hal or John, the more famous, likable Green Lanterns. They would have
Mhm.
pushed that, and he's like, no, I want the jerk Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's the first Green Lantern we get. We're getting more Green Lanterns. We are well aware of that. But like starting with Guy, I think is really great. And also like
His
he's
line
yeah.
as well, just sorry kid, Superman couldn't make it. You just got yourself an upgrade is just
yeah,
quintessential Guy Gardner. That
Yeah.
that line delivery alone, I'm like, all right, he's him. He's that
Yeah.
guy. And I also
yeah,
just love the idea that this Guy Gardner is going to exist and all these characters are going to exist in the same sort of spectrum of what we're ostensibly being promised with a show like Lanterns, which sounds like it's going to be very inspired by True Detective, maybe some cosmic horror. So I'm very excited to see how that all plays out.
Me too. And having
yeah,
I Fillion is just the perfect choice for that. Like you said, like there was a time years and years and years ago that he was kind of being touted as the Hal Jordan for a Green Lantern movie. Obviously, the time has passed on that, but he's played Hal in like animated stuff. But I love the idea that initially he was going to have like the more modern, kind of faux hockey type of hair that Guy Gardner has, and it was Fillion being like, "No, I'm going to have the stupid bowl cut because that's Guy Gardner is the stupid bowl cut," and my wife came and saw this movie with me, and she really liked it, which is very gratifying for me because she really has gotten really tired of these type of movies. But she was like, "What is up with his hair?" And so I had to show her like side by side images of like, well, this is what he looks like today, but here's what he looked like in the '80s, and she's like, "Oh my god, like that's legitimately the same hair and everything." Yeah, so
It's horrifying until you realize how accurate it is.
yeah,
yeah.
and I also love that at the end when the Justice Gang decides to like rally around Superman and save the people in uh what's the name of the country?
Jarhanpur.
Jaranpur, thank you.
Baravia was invading Jarhan.
That's right. Um that his constructs like knocking stuff down are giant middle fingers
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
just popping up out of the ground. It's so funny. Um and like he just kind of walks and doesn't give a shit. Like he's so good. I'm really excited that that all of them. I think it's just very exciting to me that in a Superman movie, and we had talked about before, Eric and I, about how starting with Superman is a good idea because you need to lay the groundwork for the DCU. If you start with Batman, you're just gonna get Batman. Do you know what I mean? Or if you start with any of these other characters, like you need to make sure Superman is shorn because he is kind of the moral center of the DCU. But then to surround him with a bunch of like a-holes, I mean, that's what Gunn knows how to write. Like he's the Peacemaker guy, he's the Suicide Squad guy, like he's the Guardians of the Galaxy guy. Like those are a-holes, but like and so he does, no one is more of an a-hole than Guy Gardner. So I think that
No,
he did
not in DC, not really.
not in DC. What about the Daily Planet? I think Lois Lane was. I mean, this is like my favorite Lois Lane, maybe since Margot Kidder, maybe even surpassing her. I think Rachel Brosnahan did such a good job, and especially in that interview sequence, I think that was beautiful. But yeah, what'd y'all think of her and the other? Eric, we'll start with you this time.
I will say that I was very satisfied. My brother David and I had fan casted her years ago. We're big Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fans. So we knew Superman was kind of coming around that time. And we're like, if they don't cast her, it's a crime. Like, this woman is Lois Lane. And so thrilled. She's perfect because she just has that, like, there's something 1930s, 1940s, 1950s about her, she's the sidekick to the detective in like some noir kind of comedy, you know what I mean, like that era. She has that vibe, and so she was perfect. And I mean, she really sings in the interview scene. Again, that interview scene is sort of like the emotional center point of the movie because she's going in pretty hard on like what happened with Clark, and you get the sense that like, yeah, I really like you, but I don't necessarily agree with what you did. And I'm not going to be afraid to ask you tough questions because you're Superman and I'm dating you. And I'm like, okay, that's Lois. Like, gives us everything we need to know about her. And the way that like she comes around, like we see her fall in love with him in the movie because she's unsure of him at first. And that scene where he's in his Smallville home and she's looking at his, like, she's in his childhood bedroom and she sees who he really is. And like, this is the guy who likes like crappy bands and like, all of this stuff. She's like, you see it in her face. She doesn't say anything. It's just like, that's the moment she falls in love with him for real. And I'm like, that's a good actress because face acting is sometimes hard. When you don't have any words to play with and it's just all just you're conveying it with your facial features, like that's hard, and she nailed it. I thought she was great. She may surpass Margot Kidder eventually. I do have a soft spot. It's very hard for me. Like the 1978 Superman is so dear to me that it we'll see if any of these things eventually top it, but they might. That's how good this was. It might.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll need to rewatch it a few times to kind of get on board with that like fully. But like again, she just blew me away. Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo what you both said. I thought she was amazing. She is my favorite Lois Lane. I think she really nailed the vibe that I would expect from a portrayal of Lois from the comics to the page. She's like this incredibly incisive investigative reporter, and she's able to parse and read through the lines in a way that someone with X-ray vision can't. And I think that's really cool. I think it was really effective in that interview sequence because, like you said, she's not afraid to speak truth to power, even when that power has the potential to have a super harem, as some reports are saying. I think that she just did a fantastic job. And I think you got to see a lot of different shades of Lois. I like that she is afraid to be vulnerable around this invulnerable being, around anyone really, because she has to keep up this sort of like protective layer. But she's someone who's like serious business. I mean, she's on speed dial for someone at like the Department of Defense after they get out of their super shadowy cabinet meeting. So she's very legit, clearly like very highly placed reporter. I don't know if there's a more important city in this version of the DCU. Metropolis definitely seems like it's the epicenter of action here, but yeah, it's definitely not what I would expect from Delaware otherwise.
Yeah, that's right. It's in Delaware.
Uh-huh.
I do like that James Gunn is committing to there's no like real major cities in his DCU. It's just all the fake DC Comics cities.
Oh yeah.
Love that because DC Comics has
Keystone
both.
City.
So there's probably just a coast city in California. There's no Los Angeles probably.
Yeah.
Love it. I mean, I love what he's done too here. It's like he was very smart in, what Marvel did so well was we're going to take these superheroes, but they're the fantastic element in like a world that we recognize, like, in a more or less grounded world, at least at first, And Gunn's like, no, this is a different version of the world. And like, and we're not going to try to do the whole thing of like slowly introduce, like, you've been around these characters or characters very much like them long enough. Like, the superhero movie boom we're now 25 years in. Like, X-Men came out exactly 25 years ago. We have enough context that we can, and The Boys has done it. Like, The Boys is the dark version of that, and it's really popular, which is like, just plop people into this superhero world, and I love that he's done that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Was there anything about this movie, we've been kind of gushing about it, but is there anything about it that did not work for you? I think at least Dan and I get your take on this, but we both are like, it's not a perfect movie, but like, what were those things that were imperfect for you, Dan?
Yeah, I think there's some stuff that it doesn't feel as fleshed out. I think in some cases the focus was on the characters rather than certain moments, and I think that's totally fine because that the characters are what made this movie work for me. I think there were certain moments like in the extra dimensional pocket prison. I think that felt a little underbaked at times. I think the reveal of Ultraman definitely felt a little bit underbaked for me. Like, it wasn't as impactful as I wanted it to be because it felt sort of, it's like, okay, like coming right off the bat with Superman clone. Sure, that's fine. And I wanted their fight feel a bit more, I wanted a bit more from it. Or I was hoping that he would look more fucked up. I was hoping he'd look more like Bizarro. And I think that if we see him again after he's been yeeted into a black hole, he's going to wind up looking a lot more like Bizarro than what we've seen previously. Yeah, I don't know. There's certain stuff I thought that some of the CGI felt like there were certain shots felt a little wonky, but these are just minor quibbles for me. Nothing really took me out. I feel like I'm picking nits when the prevailing feeling that I had upon leaving was just this suffusion of joy, and I've been riding high on that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Eric? Did you have
Yeah, the same minor quibbles. Like, the CG's here is not that great. I mean, I felt it was a little short. I could feel like, 10 minutes about has been cut from this movie. Perry White barely has anything to do.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted one scene with them in his office. Like, I wanted one scene where him like, Kent, Lane, get in here, and we didn't get that. And I bet you that it existed at some point. Yeah, things like that. I mean, there's things that I think worked really well in the movie that as a fan I bumped up against, and maybe we'll get into that, which is the Kryptonian stuff.
Let's go for it.
Okay, like I think you needed the Kryptonian reveal for Superman to have an arc in this movie, like, because he starts off as a really good, perfect guy and kind of ends as a moral guy. Like, he needed some kind of arc, and his arc was like, I am not this person because of my birth parents. I am this person. I have to realize I am this person because of the people who raised me. And so you kind of needed that. However, as a longtime DC Comics fan, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I don't know if I'm cool with his parents being awful, or his father at least being awful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's very funny to me that like both Gunn's take and Zack Snyder's take, one of the dads is like not good. Like, it definitely, like, Snyder came down on the side of Jor-El being like the more positive influence, and not that Jonathan was like a particularly bad influence, but was definitely giving the wrong lesson. I think we've all sort of agreed that like, you should be saving people, Clark Kent.
Right.
Like, you have the power to do so. Whereas in this
I have to go die in this tornado.
Yeah, do not save me.
He has super speed nobody would have ever known anyway.
I know, it's ridiculous.
The thing that sort of stood out to me a little bit was it felt like it almost felt like it was influenced by Invincible, because it really reminded me of like the Viltrumite Empire and like sending like what happens with Omni-Man and Mark Grayson in Invincible, where it's like, oh yeah, you've been sent here to basically enslave this planet and bend them to your will. And it was nice sort of having that rug pull in a different way. You didn't have this big knockdown, drag out fight between like Jor-El and Kal-El. You had, Kal-El fighting like the darkest part of himself manifested through science and pure hatred and envy. So it was an interesting twist on that, but it didn't bother me as much. I think because it paid off so well with that final scene where he's watching all the videos of Ma and Pa Kent. So I think that they stuck the landing.
Yeah,
It's
they
also super easily retconned.
for
Like,
sure.
it's important for this movie, but like in a future movie, it's very easy to say, like,
Well, Brainiac
all those
altered it.
scientists were their wife and children were being held in a
Yeah,
other
Yeah.
dimensional prison with a gun to their head. They had to say that, like there's very
Yeah.
easily, we're taking a lot of people's words on that's, but it's important for this movie.
Mhm.
Now the question I have is, Supergirl in this, she's around, she would know, she grew up until she was like 14 or 15 on Krypton before they sent her. So what's she holding back? Like, that's a conversation I'm looking forward to seeing
yeah.
Well, once she sobers up.
when she
Yeah.
sobers up. Yeah.
I definitely want to talk about Supergirl because obviously that's the next big movie coming out. And I think the tease at the end of the movie was really great. But before we do that, I do want to talk. Let's talk about Lex Luthor of it all. I think that like Nicholas Hoult is obviously really good in the role, and I've seen other people say like there's nobody better to play Lex Luthor than an actor who lost the role of Superman because he was up for Superman as well. So I think that's a very cogent point on him because like the whole movie is just him like looking at a guy that he can't be or was poised to be, and that's very Lex Luthor. um I liked the idea. I mean, I think he's very true to the comic book version, especially the 80s forward version, while also being very modern and like this is what a young kind of upstart tech billionaire kind of version of Lex Luthor would be. And he is like nasty. Like he is a legitimately bad guy, but you do understand where he's coming from, but also he's a piece of shit. So
Yeah.
I think that like I think that was really like pitch perfect in a lot of ways. Like you need a villain that bad, I think, for Superman. Yeah. Do you agree? Disagree?
Something that stood no, I agree. Something that stood out to me was the way he's calling out all of the fight moves.
Yeah.
Like he is a live show director, like directing an award show, just calling out like each thing. He has all of these cameras that are on the battle at all times. He's calling out, he has all of these moves committed to memory. It really gives you the sense like, okay, this guy is not someone who pawns off the dirty work on other people. He has other people facilitating, but he is very much in control, in the trenches, in command, just fueled by this deep-seated pathological hatred of this guy who represents everything that he can't be. He's a billionaire. He should have everything by rights. He has wealth, he has resources, he has influence, but the one thing he can't have is invulnerability, is all of these superhuman powers. So he does the next best thing that he can do. He builds someone who does that he can control. And this sort of need for control, this just wanton hoarding of resources, it's definitely very anti-billionaire in that way. And I thought it was very effective in Holt's portrayal.
Yeah. And so much of like his campaign, and there's the physical campaign of controlling Ultraman and everything like that, but so much of his like smear campaign is propaganda. Like he controls a lot of the media. Like he puts out the he's able to broadcast the corrected Jor-El video in to everybody in the entire world, like instantly. And like he's using that, and of course in the pocket dimension we see all of the apes that are, or the monkeys that are typing comments and stuff like that, which is just so
Incredible
funny.
reveal.
Yeah.
It was the blurst of times.
Really funny, really funny. But like at the end when Clark is just like kind of dressing him down, like you I'm a guy. I'm just a man. Like you're all wrong about me. And like there's that like glassy eyed part of Lex Luthor. Like we get just a little bit of like what I would consider like humanity. Like he's still a bad guy. There's no redeeming Lex Luthor, but I think that that moment really like stood out for me. Like he's cartoonishly evil until you kind of see just a little bit behind the curtain, which I really liked.
Something else that I really loved that I think highlighted that human aspect of Superman is he can't resist reading the comment section.
Yeah.
He's reading all of those nasty things online. He just can't help himself, which, you think he should be above it all, but he's not. He has to read it.
Yeah, 100%. It's he wants to know.
What I really loved about this Lex is, we talked about it when we talked about Superman the Animated Series. They leaned into the Amadeus of it all. The Salieri, like for those of people who've seen Amadeus, it's like, this is a guy who has everything on paper. He's like rich, he's smart, he has a beautiful girlfriend, like everything, but he just cannot stand that there's this other being living in the world that is more loved and can do things that he can't, naturally. Like all of this stuff, that the seething envy, it's all there, and I love that. Like he played it so well. He probably is my favorite on-screen like live action Lex
Oh, I
Luthor.
think so. I think for sure.
I mean, I don't think anyone will ever replace Clancy Brown. I think Clancy Brown in the cartoon is still the best, but it's also a different Lex Luthor. Like that version's older and holds his shit together better. He's not prone to like flipping out. But this is modern because it feels like, people in the real world who shall remain nameless.
Yeah. I don't know who you could be talking about.
Who could I be talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. So I think it, again, we're just kind of gushing about this, but this is the way it's been like since we saw it. Like we've all just been sort of like, all of our coverage is very like positive and everything like that. I do want to sort of, what was your, Eric wrote a very good piece on nerdist.com if you'd like to read it, about like some of the references from all 8 decades of Superman's history. What were some of your favorite kind of more out there references that you weren't expecting, or aspects that you weren't expecting?
I mean, at one point when Superman's kind of moping about in Lois's apartment, and you can see the Justice Gang fighting a giant creature in the background. Superman has a one-liner about like how it's just a dimensional imp, and immediately my brain went to Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, please let that be the case. I know James Gunn's also a big Batmite fan, so you never know. There's imps galore to be had. I loved all of the details and JSA Easter eggs in the mural in the Hall of Justice. There were so many deep cuts in there. Things like, Amethyst, Atomic Knight, Black Bison, Black Pirate, Dr. Fate, Freedom Beast, Jay Garrick, Silent Night Vibe, Wildcat. That's not even all of them, but it's just something that just delighted me. And then lastly, the Hypno glasses. I love that they brought that back, because that is the most like Silver Age stuff possible, where you're like, what wacky reason are you going to use to explain what's going on today?
Yeah. We talked about this in our last episode, Eric and I, about Superman, the animated series, but like in the Silver Age, there were so many Superman books because that was popular. And so there was Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. There was Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. There was like Superboy and Supergirl. Like there was, and Legion of the Superheroes. There was just so much Superman. And so there was just like, we got to come up with storylines. So let's just, and so it all became canon because like there's 12 different books that need to have stuff in them. And I love that like he picked the Hypno glasses, because like that is the thing that everyone goes like, really? You can't tell that it's Superman?
I would have liked to have seen one shot of how people perceive Clark.
Yeah, that would have been really
what
funny.
Does he look like to them? And that could have been really funny. Like I would have liked to have seen that. I think my favorite, oh God, I mean, the Hall of Justice itself, like that they went to, we talked about it already, but like I'm a Gen X kid who grew up on Super Friends. So to see that they went to the place that inspired the Hall of Justice and shot there, like just warmed my heart. Like I was like, I can't believe they've done that. Like it's so great. And it probably will be used from now on, whatever they end up doing. And yeah, Mixie,
absolutely.
That's gotta be Mixel. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it could be another imp, but it's the Superman movie. I would assume that's who it is.
Yeah. I loved just all the like, because like you said earlier, Eric, like Metropolis is a fake city. There's also just fake brands and fake places. I loved the reference to Jitters Coffee. I loved
Choco's, Zesty Cola,
right?
Big Belly Burger,
the sign that says
Wade Street, Ross Street.
Oh yeah, they all got their props. Yeah, I love
that. There was Kurt Jerk. No, there was Swan Street. There was a bunch of other any writer.
There was a Jurgens, I think.
Jurgens Street. But then also like the street sign that said Gotham City this way. Like it's just like, yep, I love it. I love it so much. I was so on board with all of it. I also really like that both Martha and Jonathan Kent are alive. Like there's no reason to kill them off. They're just people. You know what I mean? Like we don't need that version.
I think the Martha and Jonathan of it all is such like this really shows the difference between Gunn and Snyder, because Snyder is like, who are the hottest 65-year-olds? Let me find the hottest 65-year-olds on earth to play his parents. And then Gunn's like, no, I'm gonna get people who just like look like regular folks.
Yeah.
Like it's
farm
like
farm
these are
stock.
what his parents would probably look like, you know. And I loved that. I mean, they were great. Their accents were perfect. I mean, I just
Yeah.
loved how everything about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I really I just dug it. I'm so excited to see what happens next. I know that Gunn has been talking that a lot of Peacemaker season 2 is going to like kind of delve
Hmm.
into some of the like the pocket universes and like various other things. Obviously, uh we haven't mentioned it yet, but Rick Flag Sr. was in Superman. He's gonna and was the main character essentially of Creature Commandos, and he's gonna feature in Peacemaker as well. I do kind of like that there is that kind of through line character. Even if you don't know, even if you haven't watched um Creature Commandos, you kind of go like, okay, this is clearly like he's on the side of good, but he has to represent the government. Like, you know, he's the Nick Fury-ish type of character. And I think that's you need a character like that. And I'm excited for more of that. But what I'm really, really excited for is Supergirl, because I think the little bit we got of Millie Alcock was really funny. And you know, famously, or as they've said from the beginning, the movie Supergirl is going to be based on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, written by Tom King and with art by Bill Casevely, which is one of my favorite little, you know, graphic novels that I've read in the last several years. And the premise of that is that she goes to another planet with a red sun on her 21st birthday so that she can drink finally and actually get drunk. But I love the idea that this is just what she does, because and this is my headcanon, obviously we'll see what the movie brings, but she wakes up, her cousin that she's supposed to protect is already a grown man, already a superhero. So what is she doing? Like, she doesn't like have a place in the world. And so I love the fact that she's just like in her party girl era and just goes off and like leaves her dog with her cousin and just goes off and gets drunk all the time. And then the movie can start with kind of her reflecting on that and then learning like where her place is in the universe. I think that's such a cool idea.
Hmm.
And a very silly like 2-minute scene. I think it's really, really good.
And she also is someone who probably has the deep-seated trauma of remembering everyone
Yeah.
she
100%.
knows and
Yeah.
loves and her planet being exploded. So,
Yeah. Um, and
Her
she's
movie
just
will have the benefit of having Superman's breakout star along with it because it's Krypto.
yes.
mhm. I
Krypto
Everybody
saw a
is
loves
report
Krypto.
I saw a report that there was like a 400 or 500% spike in searches for dog adoption after like on Superman opening weekend. So definitely,
yeah.
it might not be correlative, but it's hard to not draw a line to that, especially after Crypto being in that and it
And
being modeled after
specifically
James
Mutts
Gunn's own
too, which I think
rescue
is
dog,
great.
Ozu.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Krypto. I always had a feeling Krypto was going to be the breakout star, you know, and like lo and behold, no one can stop talking about Krypto, and it's nice. I'm sick of hearing about the other kind of Krypto. So like, I'd rather hear about the dog.
Finally, the right
Um,
kind of crypto.
the right kind of Krypto. It's weird for me too because like it just shows like I remember a time when Krypto was too silly for the comics. Like they had to erase Krypto from existence. So for me to sit in the theater and be like, "Oh, he's in a movie now?" Like this character that was too silly for comics and in the 80s and 90s like is now like, "Okay, sure. Let's have the flying dog with the cape." I love it, but it's a whiplash, you know. I've been through so many eras of Superman at this point.
I think starting like the first big teaser for the movie and all the teaser images, like crypto is front and center. I think that was very smart, not least from a marketing standpoint and also just like a merchandising standpoint because he's adorable. But like getting like, okay, if they're gonna have crypto in this, it's going to be more lighthearted endeavor. There's no version of like a grim and gritty crypto, the super dog who wears a cape. Like it's very goofball and silly, but I love it.
I mean,
Wh
it's
Yeah,
also just worth it for getting to recreate that panel from All-Star Superman where Superman and Crypto are sitting on the moon looking at Earth.
yeah. Um, those are some of like really we know we've mentioned a few comics so far, but I love the idea. I love the fact that they're pulling from specific comics that you can go like, okay, this is this. Whereas I do feel like the Marvel movies, at least for the early parts, like it was sort of just a melange of stuff from the various comic books. Like there were a couple, like obviously Captain America: The Winter Soldier is fairly close to a lot of what Ed Brubaker wrote, and there's other ones like that. But generally, there isn't. But I love the idea that they're specifically adapting Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. That
Mr.
you know,
Miracle
Mr.
animated
Miracle.
series is going to
Yeah.
be just a straight up adaptation, I think.
Yeah. Well, it sort of tracks with what Hector Navarro interviewed James Gunn for us. He interviewed the cast and crew of Superman. You can check out those videos right now on our YouTube channel, wherever fine Nerdist content is served. But James Gunn told Hector that, part of what he was inspired by when approaching the DCU were some of these graphic novels. He mentioned things like Watchmen, like The Long Halloween, Dark Knight Returns. He liked how they all felt so different and contained, but still sort of connecting to this larger shared universe. And I think so far it feels like everything is going to be somewhat contained. It doesn't need to be connected just for the sake of being connected. There's still going to be that tissue there, but that's something I really enjoyed about this movie is it did, despite setting up things for the future, it really did feel like a self-contained story. And I think I'm excited for the different flavors of DC we're going to get from this.
That's always been a really DC thing going to the comics too. That's the DC versus Marvel thing. The Marvel characters, the most, like 90% of the most popular ones, were created by 3 people. And so they're all kind of painted with the same brush. Everything is sort of like tonally the same. DC, at least since the 80s, has been very like you said, it's like they're all very different. I mean, they coexist, but like, Frank Miller Batman lives in the same world as like Teen Titans and like all of these things that are completely different from each other, and yet we accept that they coexist. That's always been sort of the DC way, and I'm glad that he's bringing it to like live action.
Yeah. The very fact that the third feature film is going to be a Clayface body horror
Right.
movie
Yeah.
is like that is exactly like his ethos. And he talked about, there was an interview on NPR which I really liked, not to plug NPR, like they need us, but where he was talking about how his method is putting story first, and if the story isn't working, if the script isn't working, he's going to scrap it. And that's, he didn't specifically say the project, but I think a lot of people have inferred that the Sergeant Rock movie that Luca Guadagnino was going to direct is the one, which is no longer happening. And it's because after 3 or whatever drafts, they couldn't get the script right, and so rather than go forward with a half decent script, he was like, well, let's just scrap it and come back to something else later. And he's mentioned a few times that like the Authority movie not working, so like they put it on the back burner, and like they're not getting Paradise Lost TV show like they were thinking about, or the whatever, I think that's what they were calling it, but the Themyscira like
Yeah,
backstory
it's
movie or show like doesn't seem to be happening. And like, so it's all based on what stories. And I think that's, it sounds so like, well, yes, of course, but we've seen so many movies come out that seem like they were hashed together from 12 different ideas, most of the time shot without a finished script, and we'll figure it out later. And there's so many reshoots, not just to fix little like problems, but to completely change what the story is going to be. And I just like the idea that he's going, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put the money into a production just to fulfill a release date. In fact, I'm not going to tell you the release dates until they're ready to go. Like, I think that's
yeah,
such a smart move.
that big announcement thing, that title slate he did like 2 years ago, I felt like that was super forced on him.
I
Like
kind of
he
think,
wouldn't have done that otherwise, because that's just not his way. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to do that, but
and he's come out and said as much, like a few, like the James Mangold Swamp Thing movie, which I was very excited for. I hope that still happens because I love Swamp Thing so much. But like, he was like, that was just a James Mangold thing. And now, if he's not going to do it right now, then we're going to go past it. I just think that's a good way to do it. Like, let's be fluid. Let's not stick ourselves to, we have to release this on this date at this time. Like, I just think you just set yourself up for failure there. Yeah. Does anybody have any other, I mean, we could kind of gush about the movie point for point, but like, what are you guys looking forward to, like, with the DC universe? Like, what are some projects you hope to see? What is Superman as the opening salvo kind of like give you hope for with DC in the future, Dan?
Superman really shows me that James Gunn understands one of the what's felt like the toughest nuts to crack of the big DC trinity. We've had so many takes on Batman. I thought Wonder Woman, at least the first Wonder Woman movie, was pretty effective. And it shows that it's possible, but it's been a while since we've had a Superman movie that I think connected on a much wider basis. There are definitely aspects of Man of Steel that I like, aspects of Cavill's performance that I like. There's aspects of all of these Superman portrayals that I like, not you, Dean Cain. But I think that what this does is it shows it makes me confident. It sets like a baseline for what I can look for, because even though James Gunn isn't writing and directing every single project, the fact that he's overseeing this and stewarding this along with Peter Safran, that does give me hope, because this is sort of like laying down the gauntlet to say like, hey, we're here out the gate. This movie had to be our Iron Man, but it's different. It's different
Mhm.
because Superman's a different character fundamentally than Iron Man, culturally and also just in universe.
Mhm.
So it makes me excited for what's to come. I know that there's a report in Variety that they're fast tracking a Wonder Woman movie, so I'm very curious about that. I think it's probably smart to get out another one of these big characters. As much as I love Supergirl, and I'm very excited for Clayface, I think for the wider populace, you do need to bring out some of these big guns. So you have these like almost tentpole movie events for people to rally around, where it's like, okay, this is the character that I know best and I want to see on the big screen. And I'm excited for what else is to come, what sort of weird nuggets emerge from this. I saw there's a report in the Wall Street Journal about how apparently they're considering both spin-off TV shows for Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen.
Love
And
it.
at first I was like, Jimmy Olsen, but then you think about Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen as a comic, and that crazy stuff happens in there. That's where we meet Darkseid for the first time. So anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm very excited about what they're going to do now. I mean, I have a feeling that like like what Dan just said. I think they're going to the big blockbusters they're going to reserve for like the names. But I think that their mid-budget movies, like they're going to do mid-budget movies which Marvel doesn't do. You know, like Clayface, probably Swamp Thing would have been that or might be
Mhm.
that. You know, they're going to go weird with that. They're going to go weird with probably their HBO Max shows like Booster Gold if that ever gets made, and they're going to reserve the $200 million plus movies for the big guns. And I think that's smart. You know, I'm like, they don't need to oversaturate, you know, so we'll see Batman. I fully expect Batman to be in the next Superman. I don't think it's going to be Batman versus another Batman v Superman.
Give me
Not
World's
at all.
Finest
I
if you're going to
think
do
it'll
that.
be something, and I think it'll be a Superman movie. I think it
Mhm.
will be in the way that Civil War was a Captain America movie. Like it wasn't Captain America / Iron Man. I think we'll get introduced Batman that way to the DC, unless they do Brave and the Bold first, but who knows?
Well, now
Um,
with Matt Reeves finally finished his the Batman 2 script, so I think they're going to do that one first,
yeah,
just because they need to kind of finish that because that's going to be in a different universe, presumably.
yeah,
And
Um,
because WB shareholders are expecting us a Batman movie coming out 2027 by hook or by crook.
yeah, that's what
yeah,
Peter Safran said. He's like, a Batman movie will come out in 2027, like whatever
yeah.
it ends up being.
But they need to introduce the DCU needs a Batman. He's too
Yeah,
important. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I
he literally
fully
has a
see
shot
something
in
like
Creature Commandos. Yeah,
Superman World's Finest, where Batman plays a big part, but it's still a Superman movie.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
I think
that's
there's
how you introduce him.
yeah,
And Wonder Woman's another one that they have to. I mean, in another universe, Flash and Green Lantern would be the other ones, but they just Lanterns is going to be a show, and probably Flash will be a show again at some point. You know, I don't think
yeah,
after the last time they're going to do another movie. So you have to kind of
yeah.
focus on those. That you have to focus on the Trinity,
Hmm.
you know, and get them in a good place so that Justice League will be something people give a shit to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like as
and
opposed
that's
to
yeah.
last time.
Because Aquaman and The Flash are so kind of recent, I think they're going to hold off on their solo movies on them. They'll probably show up. We need a Flash. We need an Aquaman. Like that is just part of it. I also think I would love a proper like Martian Manhunter like
Oh yeah.
movie or
Yeah,
something before he's just in the Justice League. I would love that, and because he was in the early days, he was a shapeshifter who became like a cop, like or a private eye or whatever you want to do with him. I think that's
I
a
mean
I
really
they
fun
mean,
idea.
a
they
Martian
mentioned
Manhunter
Martians in this movie.
series. Yeah,
They what? Sorry, Dan.
Especially they mentioned Martians in this movie,
Yeah,
they
so
did.
why
true.
not? It could happen. Yeah.
I mean, a
And
Martian Manhunter series that's like set throughout the 20th century with him just like in different forms and
Yeah,
jobs and got like that just
or
makes the
whatever they're
most
doing
sense.
right now. I was going to say what they're doing right now as well with Absolute Martian
Yes.
Manhunter. I think could be very fascinating too. My pitch had always been for a Hawkman movie where you see Carter Hall at different points throughout history, just like endless cycle of death and rebirth. So who knows if we'll ever get that? I think we've got Hawk Girl for right now. I think the Hawk
yeah,
arena is covered.
the Hawk Arena.
That's DC chapter 5 or something like that.
Yeah,
Well, the fact that it's Hawk Girl, we have Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, we're going to have the Trinity. It feels like we're setting up the animated Justice League for sure.
Yeah. That's everybody's like, not everybody's, but that's a generation's like go-to what the Justice League is. That's the lineup. The fact that it's John and not Hal is like a big part of it as well.
Yeah. I think Wally will be the Flash too.
Yeah. I want a Wally West, man. Like, absolutely. Like,
it's
give me
a story that you need to differentiate the DCU Flash from both the CW and the DCEU versions. And that story of like, you were the kid's sidekick whose mentor suddenly died and you're 19 or 20 years old and you have to take over, that we haven't seen that story. So it makes sense for them to use that version to differentiate.
Yeah, 100% adapt the Mark Waid run, please. Like, if you're going to adapt,
please.
like, that's the best. It's the best Flash. Yeah, I have said before, like I mentioned Swamp Thing, like I want to see some of the weirder, darker stuff. I love the Clayface idea, but there's a lot of. I think Marvel has always done cosmic perhaps better. With the exception of Green Lantern than DC, but DC does horror and dark characters, I think, so much better than Marvel. And I want to see like the Phantom Stranger. I want to see Spectre. I want to see some of these like.
Would be sick.
I would love it. I think it would be really, really cool. And you know, there's a lot of potential there. And the fact that Creature Commandos like was successful for what it was, you know, a grown-up animated series, it gives me some hope. But I want to see some of these like kind of bigger characters. I would love a Question movie or a TV show. Like that would just be cool.
That hasn't happened.
Yeah,
I know Kevin Smith almost made one a few years ago, but that was under previous DC leadership. So
that was when they were throwing. Do you remember when Steven Spielberg was going to make a Blackhawks movie?
Yes.
What a world that would have been.
Hey, they just announced things. It was like for shareholders. They just said things. They just said things, you know, and it was like, this isn't happening. Remember New Gods? How that was going to, I can see that happening now. But
yeah, I still think, and Ava DuVernay was an interesting choice for that too. But yeah. So yeah, the world is wide open there. Obviously we have Fantastic Four on the Marvel side of things, which I think we're all pretty excited for in the same way, kind of have similar reservations. So we'll obviously reconvene and talk about that going forward. But I think DC's in a really good place. And as a kid who grew up mostly on DC Comics, with the exception of Spider-Man and X-Men, like I just am I'm chuffed with all the possibilities, and give me the Terrifics TV show or movie. Like, give it. I want to see Plastic Man, please, and thank you, and let it find
Ben Schwartz has been gunning for that.
For
like a long time. So
yeah. Well, that was our talk of Superman. Obviously, we really like it, and if you have differing opinions, please let us know. Both on various. I don't know what we're on. Blue Sky? Are we on Blue Sky? I don't even know. But you can write to the show at Laser Focus.
We're on every platform.
We're on every platform. I don't know. You anything.
Should.
I know.
You should know.
You're absolutely right. You can write to the show at laserfocus@nerdist.com. Eric, how can people find you and your work on the internet should they choose to do so?
On the aforementioned Blue Sky. And of course, every day on Nerdist.com.
Very good. And yeah, Eric's written a lot of really good deep dive pieces into Superman and kind of lore and stuff recently. So please go check those out. Nerdist.com/tags/Superman, I think, is a good way to do it. Dan, what about you? What do you got to plug?
If you haven't already taken the time to watch it yet, go check out the video I just did. We need to talk about Superman. It's up on our YouTube channel now. Otherwise, just come hang out with us on Nerdist.com. We have all sorts of amazing stuff about Superman, non-metahuman focused media as well. So a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pipeline, and we're just very excited to have all of you here in our audience as well. So thank you for listening and reading.
Absolutely. Yep. And thank you all for listening to Laser Focus. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Eric, for joining me to talk about a movie that we all really liked. Thank you for listening, folks. I've been Kyle Anderson. Join me again next week on Laser Focus when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.